you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast, the hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, there are ladies and things that makes official. Welcome to the big show. As always, the Chris Voss Show is a family that loves you but doesn't judge you as least on as harshly as the rest of your family, but we don't loan you money either, so quit asking, damn it. Anyway, guys, we had an amazing man we're talking about on the show. We're going to be talking about diet and some of the things you can be eating to improve the quality of your health, et cetera, and maybe improve the environment as well. Today, we're going to be talking with Nate Bloom, who serves as the Chief Executive Officer of Blue Milo and Sorghum United. Sorghum United is an international NGO serving to advance education and market development for sorghum and adjacent small grains. Mr. Bloom is passionate about the mission of Sorghum United due to the solutions for food security, nutrition, environmental sustainability, and rural economic disparity that these ancient grains represent. He's an expert on grain sorghum production and marketing with a focus on value-added agriculture and processing for sorghum-based products. Welcome to the show, Nate. How are you?
I'm good. Chris, do you ever have any guests that don't start the show smiling after that intro?
They do. It really jacks them up. It jacks up everybody. It even just gives me a little bit of a kick nudge.
So that's high adrenaline, man. I love that.
That's what we love. Energy cells. So give us your .coms. Where do you want people to look you up on the interwebs?
Yeah, so we've got two websites. You can check us out at w.sorghumunited.com. And then we also have www.sorghosquad.com.
So give us a 30,000 overview of what's inside what you do there.
Yeah, really what I tell people is that we might be preaching on sorghum and millets, these grains that people would say, oh, you work in agriculture. Mm-hmm. But really, actually, what I tell our team all the time is nobody cares about sorghum and millets, and I get that. What they really care about, though, they care about food security. They care about health and nutrition, issues around stunting, social issues around economic disparity, crime, human trafficking, all the things that lack of access to healthy food and prosperity bring to cultures around the world, as well as the environmental impacts of what's going on in our planet, right? How do we save more water? How do we sequester more carbon in the soil? How do we provide more habitat for pollinators and birds and things like that? And sorghum and millets check all those boxes. So really what we're working in is not agriculture. Actually, what we're working in is in those basic human systems that allow for the flourishing and thriving of human civilization.
Wow. So what is sorghum? Is this where you get your jaws sore because you chew gum for too long? You're like an NFL coach or something?
No, sorghum is an ancient grain. It's kind of like, we use it like rice at home in that way, but it's gluten-free, it's non-GMO.
Oh.
And frankly, wherever you go in the world, it's called something different. So a lot of your viewers here in North America would know it as Milo.
Oh.
In India, they know it as Jowar. In Ethiopia, it's Mashila. Kenya, it's Mbatu. Sorgo in Europe. So this is an ancient grain that's been around for, like 8,000 years is what's been traced back to. So pre-Mesopotamia even. I mean, you're talking about the Harappan civilization in India that then spread it to North Egypt and everything else. And so consequently, it's been part of so many cultures for so many millennia that every culture has a bit of a different name for it. But in modern times, we've forgotten it. And so our job is to help people bring that back.
So you guys are trying to bring awareness, get people familiar with sorghum and what it is. What is it? What does a consumer need to know about some of this stuff and why it's important for them? I mean, can I order a sorghum steak, or how do I tap into utilizing this diet resource?
Well, it's funny you said sorghum steak, because I mean, if you wanted to do like a Impossible Burger or something like that, sorghum is one of those grains that's high in protein that I think is being used for some of that. Now, really? I'm a farm kid. I'm not judging anybody else, but I like a good steak. So maybe my steak could be fed by sorghum. which is just fine too. But sorghum's a grain. Millets are a whole other conversation that we work in as well. They're also small ancient grains. All primarily members, I should say, of the Poaceae grass family, by the way. So they're small grain, like grass. If there's a drought, they go dormant, but they don't die. Like when you have your front lawn, you get into a drought, you're not watering it, it turns brown.
Yeah.
But then you get a little bit of water and a little bit of rain, and it perks back up. It's the same thing for these plants, whereas other grains would just burn up and die.
Wow.
So they're really drought tolerant, which is why they're really good in so many places around the world. It's one of the things that makes them really important.
Probably why they survived for so long too, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a basic of, this is where they evolved from. They evolved from these hot, arid regions in the Sahel and East Africa and Mesopotamia and in India, of course.
All those places where it was hard to grow stuff. But yeah, you need food. Last time I checked as a human being, food's kind of important, although some people seem to be eating more than others. I've certainly done mine.
Hey, come on. My camera doesn't go that low, Chris. Come on.
I've done my fair share, trust me. You can hear the fatness in my voice, so it gurgles every now and then. How did you get into this business? How did you get in discovery, and why and when did this become important to you?
Yeah, well, so it's really interesting. So I grew up on a farm in Nebraska, but I grow crops as well as I grow a full head of hair. Yeah, okay, you can laugh. It's all right. No, don't. It's a bad joke.
I'm not going to laugh.
Okay, fine. Do you. But the reality is I grew up in the 1980s, and the farm crisis was a real thing, and so my cousins and we were all told, go off the farm, go find something else, there's nothing for you. So actually, fast forward, I ended up working for a member of Congress for about 5 years as director of ag policy and outreach.
Oh, wow.
And through that, I realized, I really kind of missed the farm. I want to be closer to it. And so an opportunity came up a few years later for me to be the executive director of the Nebraska Grain Sorghum Board.
Wow.
And I took it. Now, I didn't know anything really about sorghum at the time, other than the fact that we grew it on our farm in rotation when I was growing up.
Oh.
But the more I learned about it, the more I learned about the nutrition and health benefits that sorghum provides, the more I learned about the qualities of the grain as a C4 plant, sequestering carbon, soil health, water conservation, biodiversity, all that stuff. And having a policy background looking at things from a 30,000-foot view, I became really passionate because I was like, okay, there's a lot of problems in the world right now that we're facing in our food systems and in our ecological systems that these grains could be solutions for. Not the only solutions, but definitely a big part of the solution. And frankly, our food systems are undervalue these grains. And as a result, a lot of farmers don't grow them.
Oh, wow.
Why would you grow something you can't sell?
That's true.
So,
you got to be able to sell it.
And then from your other standpoint, the creating awareness, consumers can't request a grain if they don't know it exists.
That's true.
So we try to do all those things. We try to support farmers. We try to support the creation of value chains at a local level around the world, working with governments, universities, private sector, small-scale mechanization fabricators, and the farmers, but then also creating the market's awareness so that the people understand this is why they should want these grains and why they should care.
So it's also called Milo. Here's Anthony's organic hulled millet. Is that the same thing?
Yep.
So millet's the same thing. Now I'm looking on Amazon, so I'm seeing spaghetti that's made from it.
I should quantify it. So millets aren't exactly the same thing. They're in the same family.
Okay.
What I like to tell people is we work in sorghum and millets, but there's no such thing as millets.
Okay. So I'm seeing sorghum you can order from Amazon in several different forms. There's the famous Bob's Red Mill that has them. There's some spaghetti that's made from sorghum here. That's kind of interesting. What are some of the benefits? Should I be ordering, some of this to sprinkle on things or cook up or use as a cereal? What's the mode that I can use to utilize some of this stuff?
So you can use it as a gluten-free flour, so you can bake with it. A lot of people, when they use it as a flour, they'll buy an all-purpose mix that already has like xanthan gum in it because that gluten is the binder, right? So without gluten, you have to have something to hold things together. So xanthan gum is commonly used for that. But at home, when we do that, we use it just like we would any other regular wheat flour as far as recipes go.
Wow.
You can flake it, you can pop it, you can extrude it just like a Cheeto. You can cook it just like rice. I mean, anything you do with a grain, you can do. And it's not just food. I mean, it's food, fuel, and fiber, right? So from the stalks in the South. From the stalks, people make syrup. They make sorghum syrup, which is probably what a lot of your viewers know about. But you can also extract that sugar just like you would sugar cane. And to your point of why you should be looking at it. So from a health benefit, there are hundreds now of peer-reviewed public research papers that have been published around the world that all show the same things, right? Anti-diabetes management, it's lower on the glycemic index.
Mm-hmm.
So you stay fuller for longer, and it makes it easier to manage your blood sugars. A lot of folks in India actually control their diabetes entirely through a diet of millets.
Really?
Absolutely, they do.
What?
And then anti-carcinogenic benefits, heart health benefits. A couple years ago here in Nebraska, where I live, the Food for Health Center, which is one of 6 organizations in the world that exclusively studies the human gut microbiome, they published 2 papers in the journal Nature that showed that sorghum helps to rebalance the human gut microbiome. And why wouldn't it? Because that biology in our gut evolved alongside us, and these were some of the first grains grown by humans. I mean, doesn't it make sense that that microbiology would be happier when we ate these? So, and not to mention the anti-inflammatory benefits, right? So inflammatory bowel disease in particular, there's been a ton of research that have shown that these grains help to combat that.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm seeing like you can buy it's like popcorn, but it's sorghum. You can buy it on Amazon. I might try some of that just for
there's I tell you what, even at home, we'll pop it. I just use a popper that blows. Yeah, I buy like a $20 popper on Amazon that blows the air horizontally instead of vertically. Because the grains are small, so if you blow them vertically, they blow out. But if you blow them horizontally, you can pop them really easily. And then what I do is I drizzle olive oil on there just to get the whatever seasoning I want to stick, and then I make it taste whatever I want it to taste like.
Oh, wow.
Super easy.
Yeah, I'm seeing all sorts of different variations. There's even some books on stuff that you can take and utilize. And I mean, the grain, the gut health, your second brain, as it were, is one of those things that is really important for people. Looks like you can buy it in so many different variations and stuff. And it kind of, I mean, you could probably replace quinoa with it, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, quinoa is another one of those grains that's really, really good. So we don't really want to replace that. And frankly, we don't want to replace, Chris, this is really important. I want to make this distinction. We don't want to replace any grain. What we like to say, though, is that there's room on the plate for everybody. And what has happened in our global food systems, which are largely driven out of Europe and North America, think about your really large companies producing food, right? Those systems are set up to really favor a handful of grains. Your corn, your rice, your wheat, your soybean, and those are all fine by themselves. But what's happened is the entire diet has become those, right? And when we look at nutrition comparisons, even for unprocessed grains, right, like whole grain, sorghum and millets, calcium, iron, vitamin, fiber, all that stuff. I mean, these other grains, they beat those grains that we're used to hands down.
Wow.
And then you get into the over-processed issue with food. So like what I like to tell people, listen, I mean, it's no wonder 66% of all diseases in the world are dietary related. Look at what we're eating. We're eating things that look like food, but they're not really food, right? And who does that affect most? Who's it most expensive for and out of reach to purchase healthy, fresh foods? The people who are economically disparaged. So they're the ones who are left with the bad things, So trying to make a difference within those food systems, I mean, it's not just the work that we're doing in Africa or Asia or South America or Latin America. I mean, it matters here too.
Yeah, it definitely does. So tell us about the Sorghum Squad. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah, Sorghum Squad. Remember I said sorghum is what they call sorghum in Europe, right? Yeah. So listen, I'm a big fan of what we call edutainment, right? I love to learn, but I like to be entertained while I learn. And I think that a lot of young people are the same way. Not that I'm a young person anymore, but I used to be. Thanks, you'll laugh at that one.
Yeah.
So we wanted people to understand what these grains were and why they should matter, right? From a health and nutrition standpoint, from a, how can their grains be used in an industrial application standpoint? And then what does it mean for environment, biodiversity, et cetera? And so we came up with these characters and we gave them these different names from around the world so people would recognize that they're all the same. So Professor Sorghum, obviously Europe, right? Joar, who represents the industrial applications for sorghum, that fuel and fiber piece. That's the name in India. Mashila, she represents the health and nutrition, and find her in Ethiopia, where Mashila is the nomenclature. And of course, Ilo here in North America represents the environmental part of it. And they're kind of, because of my love for history and my love for comic books, they take a graphic novel type form. I'm a big Spider-Man nerd, happy to say it. I don't shy away from that. And so the covers are actually homages, by the way, to different Spider-Man covers. I'll let you decide which ones they are. But they're like Indiana Jones meets Captain Planet, right? And they've been really well received. Now we've got a merchandise store as well. We've got a video game in development, should be out here in the next couple months. And I'm actually here right now. I'm at Sundance Film Festival in Park City, Utah, because we're trying to rub elbows with people who can help us with some animation and distribution. All the proceeds from Sorghum Squad, by the way, go into the Sorghum United Foundation. And the Sorghum United Foundation, that's what I consider to be doing the real work as far as helping empower and uplift people. But again, those people can't be empowered and uplifted in these grains if the consumers don't know what they are and why they should want them. So we've got to do both at the same time.
So the video games and the other features are to help people get educated, get familiar with what's going on, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, but to have fun while they're at it. One thing that's interesting with the books, originally we set out really just to educate about sorghum and millets, but also then, in a palatable way, how do we take these very complex issues around our food systems globally? How do we make those into a, no pun intended, digestible nugget that young people can understand even?
Yeah.
But some of the reviews we've gotten have gone beyond that because we are a global organization, and the books reflect that. We've gotten reviews from educational outlets that have said things like, oh, we love the diversity within the characters. Oh, we love the showcasing of the different cultures. Oh, we love the history it's rooted in these historical sites and things like that. And as well as, of course, the ecology and the topics around our changing climate. So, it's been really well received.
I noticed you guys have a marketplace on your website, and I guess different places you can go to buy this stuff.
We're revamping the website, actually.
Okay.
We've got about 4,000 stakeholders all over the world on every continent except for Antarctica, and they represent all points within the value chain. So there are necessarily several of our members who are small and medium enterprises selling products and things like this. The marketplace you see up there was a bit of an experiment. We were always trying to find more ways to bring value to our stakeholders. But now, just in the last month, Sorghum United has transitioned from like a membership type organization to an actual 501c3, an actual foundation.
Oh, wow.
So just this morning, we had a team strategy call to figure out how do we want to revamp the website so it's more reflective of that. And we're now becoming more project based, doing projects around the world. Which I think I'm really excited about those projects here.
Well, seems pretty interesting. Is there anything we haven't discussed about sorghum that you want people to know about?
I really would like to take a moment and talk about those projects that I mentioned and why they matter. So we're undertaking here in 2025 what I call field to market trials. And we're doing this. We've got 3 in the Philippines, 1 in India, 3 in Kenya, 2 in Zimbabwe, 1 in Malawi, 1 in South Africa. And we're talking about doing 1 in Brazil as well as Colombia. And this is reflective, again, of the fact that we have staff all over the world. We have offices in India, offices in Kenya, offices in the Caribbean, and of course here in North America as well as the Philippines. And what we're wanting to do and what we're doing is we're working with those academic institutions locally, those input providers locally, those fabricators locally, because a lot of places in the world, they're still, listen, man, they're harvesting, they're cultivating, they're threshing by hand for these grains. And so rather than going and being an organization that goes in and gives them machinery, for example, instead we license the schematics for the machinery, and then we teach their local fabricators how to make it. That's important because for a couple reasons. One, just to pick on the mechanization for a minute. One, when that mechanization breaks, they know how to fix it because they're the ones who built it. That's not the case right now in a lot of places. A lot of places that equipment comes from China. It's sometimes poorly made, and when it breaks, no one knows how to fix it. Yeah. The other side of that is different environments require maybe different tweaks to those schematics. And so this allows those local populations to find local solutions that match where they're at, while also creating jobs, not just in agriculture, but adjacent to agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also work with them from teaching them how to be entrepreneurs, how to create products, but then also to run businesses. Because what happens a lot in agriculture, whether it's here in the USA or in Zimbabwe, is that farmers are really good at growing a raw grain, and then they sell it as a commodity, and there's no way to capture value. The market determines the price. I talked to one farmer in Zimbabwe recently in Binga, whose only market is the local brewer, okay? The local brewer knows that he's the only market, and guess what? He hasn't paid the farmer in 8 years. But the farmer still goes there because he doesn't have anywhere else to go. And what's he going to do? Not grow grain?
Yeah.
Teaching them, well, maybe you can make a flour out of it. Maybe you can make a bread. Maybe you can go and sell that into your own market. Make your own market. Or in the Philippines, where rice is such a big part of the diet. And the Philippine government asks me, they said, how do we eat it? How do we sell it? And I said, what are you making with rice? Okay, we're making this and that. Okay, make that, but change the formulation to include this.
Wow.
It's really that simple. So what we're trying to do, what I think is different, sets us apart from other organizations that are doing good work also, by the way, not to pick on them. But we don't want to go into an area or a culture or a country and try to give a solution to a problem we may not fully understand within that context. And not only that, we don't want to propagate multi-generational learned helplessness. We want to really empower people. And we want to empower people by using the value systems that these grains can provide because of the health benefits, but also because of the fact they are so hardy and they can grow in some of the worst environments on the planet. So this is what makes a lot of sense. People who support us at the Sorghum United Foundation, that's where your money is going. Your money is going to those educational pieces. Your money is going to those partnerships. Your money is going to help these people on the ground, smallholder farmers, set up local processing, modernize their operations, get access to good seed. Something as simple as that is a challenge sometimes. And again, all over the world.
Definitely. So how can people take advantage of your systems? They can go there and contribute or donate. They can buy resources. How can people get involved?
Yeah, so there's a few different ways. Of course, if you go to sorghumunited.com, there's a donate button at the top that does link to a PayPal account. That's the easiest way. We are going to be setting it up, so if you want to make monthly donations, you can do that. And as we revamp the website, you're going to be able to actually see those projects and the people, most importantly, the people that we're working for on the ground. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is, talk to your local school systems. Those Sorgo Squad books are really intended for school systems. And they meet a lot of curricular demand around, again, sustainability, health and nutrition, and, multiculturalism. Talk to your school system, go to your school board and say, hey, maybe we should buy these. Because, again, the proceeds from those go back into the Sorghum United Foundation mission. Watch for the video game that's coming out. And heck, by the way, don't stop there. If you want to buy books for the grandson or granddaughter for a birthday, you can do that too at sorghosquad.com. There's also merchandise. So we have shirts, hats, water bottles, that sort of a thing. And sneak peek, my team in the Philippines tells me we're going to be expanding into plushies and action figures soon too.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that should be a lot of fun.
All of those things go back into doing the good work that we're trying to do. And I just gave a presentation on this the other day. This is ultimately why this matters, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to take, and I'm sure you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? That pyramid you get in Psychology 101 at the university.
Mm-hmm.
And the foundational piece of that pyramid are those physiological needs. And do you remember what those physiological needs are?
I don't remember exactly. Go ahead and fill us in.
Food, water, shelter, those types of things. The basic things we need to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
When we don't have those, and I've been in a lot of places in the world that are not very nice that don't have those things, okay? That's when you have issues with crime. That's when you have issues of human trafficking, sometimes even self-trafficking, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's when you have the issues over lack of education because people can't afford to go to school. That's when you have the issues around radicalization, or political instability. When those basic foundational pieces of society are not present, the rest of society cannot progress. And, I've got a lot of people who come to me and they say, well, I don't work in agriculture, so I don't need to worry about this or whatever. I remind people, listen, two things. One, we all share the same planet, right?
Mm-hmm.
So whether you work in agriculture or not, you have a vested interest in making sure the person next to you is doing well.
Mm-hmm.
But two, if you eat, guess what? You're adjacent to agriculture. The FFA here in North America, they do a really good job. They've got a saying. They tell their kids, there's 435 careers in agriculture,
Mm-hmm.
and only 2 of those are farmer and rancher. So you think about all the adjacent industries, everything from banking to manufacturing to marketing to shipping to all these things, right? Food processing. That's
Mm-hmm.
all dependent upon agriculture. And what happens in these societies, if they can't grow grain because of the climate that they're in, they're trying to grow maybe maize in the desert, which doesn't work, but they can grow sorghum instead.
Mm-hmm.
If they can't grow those things, then all that adjacent industry, those adjacent economic opportunities, they fall too. Without that basic fundamental structure, foundation of society, the entire society tends to collapse unless it's heavily supported, which becomes a whole other challenge.
Yeah. Well, as we've seen climate change and some of the fallout, we've seen the fires in California. It definitely is a big deal. So as we go out, give people a final pitch in the .com so people can find you on the interwebs.
Yeah, follow us on the socials, of course. We're on, all the big ones, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Everything your kids and grandkids are on, except maybe Snapchat. We don't do that one. I'm not sure if we're on TikTok. I've got to ask my team that.
Oh.
But then also, of course, the website, sorghosquad.com. Those books are also on Amazon as well. And then, of course, sorghumunited.com. I think we post some really interesting things. Right now, we're starting to post some more content from a group of fellows that are nutritionist graduate students, nutrition and health students out of India. So there's a lot of really unique perspectives that our stakeholders bring sometimes to those posts too.
Oh, it's been very insightful. I learned some new things. I'm going to order some of that popcorn. Try it. I really like popcorn, but the problem is that's popcorn, right?
It's good. Remember, there's room on the plate for everybody, and frankly, the fastest growing market for sorghum in the United States is pet food. So if it's good enough for your pet, it's good enough for you.
Oh, really? I don't know. I've seen some of the things my pet's eating in the backyard.
Did you know, Chris? Did you know this stat that during the pandemic, for the first time in history, can spent more money on their pets than they did their children?
Oh yeah, because your pets still love you at the end of the day. I don't know about the children.
So if you're willing to spend that kind of money, more money on your pets than your kids, maybe you should be thinking about what it is you're feeding them and thinking, hey, maybe if it's good for them, it's good for me too.
You do. And your pets aren't going to throw you into a housing center. They're not going to throw you under the bus when you get old. So,
No, they'll just eat your nose when you die. It's fine.
That's true. I heard cats will eat you first before dogs will. Dogs will wait a while. Cats are just assholes by general nature.
Hey, man.
And so
it's like the circle of life. It's like Elton John right there. It's fantastic.
Circle of life and Elton John. And cats eating your face. I don't know.
It's good conversation.
I mean, I love Elton John's music, but there's some people that probably think listening to it is like cats eating your face. I know it's for that way with me in modern music. Anyway, it's been very insightful, Nathaniel, to have you on the show. We really appreciate it. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, Chris, my pleasure. Thanks for what you do.
Oh, and thanks to our audience for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss, one of the TikTok, and all those crazy places on the internet. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time. And that should have us out. Great show.